All right, the last video we're going to do for the quick table calculations, mainly because there's really not too much to them. They're not freakishly complicated formulas, so I don't want to get too deep unless really people get in touch with me and request that I really need it for a very specific case. Then I'm happy to do a video on that. So please let me know. For now, we're going to run through more as a refresher the other types of quick table calculations. And the easiest way to do that is really just looking at it in a time-based kind of scenario. So let's bring in the order date, let's bring in month, and let's bring in sales like so. And again, we're going to duplicate it using that control button. And we're going to do the quick table on here. So if I do difference, right, the difference, which is probably better to be seen. So if I click this, it's just going to activate the graphics for this one, right? And if I switch this to bar, this is probably what you want to show for the difference quick table calculation. What I suggest though, and I've made this mistake a lot, is if you don't have this one, right, and you put labels on the first one. So let's go and put labels here, right? And then I duplicate it, right? And then I change it to difference bar, right? Be very careful because what's happened now is you've changed the quick table, but this text is actually this text, right? See how they match, right? You really want to show the quick table on this one, okay? Which means either you get rid of this and duplicate this one in here, right? So now you have the correct values, or if I just undo, I can do another quick table on this one. My only problem with doing a quick table here separately is because if you've done other things like you've customized your quick table, let's say we go edit and we're doing, there's not really much you can do on the difference one. Let's say you've changed something here and you forget, and then you come in here and you just do a standard difference. It may not be the actual values that the bar is showing. So be very careful. One way to ensure it is just duplicate what you're already representing. All right, neat little trick. And for differences, you really want to show the difference, right, between colors. I tend to go like red and green kind of traffic light style, like so, and you can really see that. If you want this to be more of a standard color, like a solid one, you go stepped, right, and drop this to 2, meaning you only have 2 colors available. So if I go OK, now they are solid colors. So neat little trick in between there. I thought I'd squeeze that in. All right. So that is the difference one. Let's look at my favorite, which is the moving average. And I'm going to clear this bottom one just by getting rid of this. Right. We're back to this one. Let's get rid of this label. Let's duplicate again. Right click, quick table, moving average. Right. And what we're going to do is actually convert this to day, right? I want it to be really sharp, really granular, a lot of points, okay? And then I want this one to be a dual axis, okay? I want to put them on the same one, and yep, the blue is the moving average, okay? And I'm gonna go and synchronize these because these axes are actually different, okay? But it's the same magnitude of values. So I want to make sure these are synchronized, right? Like so. And I want to smooth this out. So if I go edit, okay, and the smoother I make it, right, we can turn off this calculation assistant for a second. The smoother I make this, the flatter it gets, as you can see, okay. And what that's able to do is for very noisy data, I guess you can say. I know all the signal processing engineers are gonna kick my butt for saying the noisy data, right? You can actually see a lot better what is happening in your data, even though it's quite messy. And the way it does this is all these really crazy spikes, right, get smoothed out. So moving average, you can think of it as a smoothing function. Just gonna hide that, right? And one other thing I actually like to do with this is if I click on this one, which is the orange one, I set the color to be a bit more translucent or kind of see-through, right? So if I click color, and I drop this to about 50%, it really brings out the smoothing function. And the reason I do that is because sometimes I can show the smoothing function, but if there is an anomaly, I want to also be able to see that. So if there was something here that's like massive, right, but everything else was kind of flat, we want to really be able to see that, because a smoothing function will just get rid of that, because that could be a point of discussion, right? And we can also do other things with the smoothing function. Go edit. The standard one is it always does the previous values, right? It does the current value and then however many values you want preceding it. But you can also do values in front of it, right? And that's simple by just going and increasing this. I tend to not use this, but maybe you have an application for it. So you can go both ways, and you can also use this null if there are not enough values, which I don't really use. Oops, I clicked something, right? And basically what that happens is, let's say I make this 20 points, but I'm at the very last, like the fifth last row of my data, which means there's not enough rows of information to do 20 points of averaging. If I continue to do the average, it will skew, because suddenly instead of averaging across 20, I'm averaging across 50. And what you'll get in your plot, if I show it here, in this one, for example, it's going to go, that's fine, and then it's going to spike because the averaging has changed, right, in this portion. So what this does is it just nulls it at the very end, okay? So if we're going to do that, right, so you can see here it's just made it kind of disappear, right? But it all depends on how you're averaging it out. So if I do 0 here, right, you see how it's gone really crazy kind of here at the bottom. You kind of don't want that, I guess, in some cases, because then it's not a true representation of what's happening near the end. Just a little thing to be kind of, aware about. Okay, there's that one. Let's do another one. I want to get rid of that. Let's change this back to month, right? And we'll do, if we come in here, right, we'll do difference. Percent difference is really just the difference as a percentage as it's changing. Percent of total is really just a percent of total, so there's not too much with that, right? Percent of total, I guess, is good for if we do this, percent of total, and we put the labels on, right? It will show how much it's going as you move along. So that's doing a percent, okay? So you can see it's kind of like monthly contribution. If I change this to year, right, it will update. So we can see across the entire 100%, most of it was done this year. So that's had some use. Let's go quick table. Rank, I tend to not use kind of in this method, mainly because if I put rank in here, get rid of that, right? The point of having a visual bar chart is to automatically tell you which one's the highest and lowest. So if I make this, let's say, month, and I introduce the color of the values, let's say, where's it, sales, okay, and I do something like my classic red black, right, the colors are, oops, hang on, the colors are telling me the high values, not the number. I tend to use the rank for tables in order to order things from highest to lowest if I have a number of columns, but that's pretty much it. I don't tend to really use this rank function, but if you make use for it because you want to kind of show something in your visualization, by all means. Okay, and the last thing I'll show you is simply how to clear it. So I can press that to clear, and also if you want to be quick, you can also change the direction of your calculations through here rather than going into your edit and changing it from here. Okay, so last little trick. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you at the next video.